Daren, thanks for sitting down with me today. I appreciate your time.
Happy to do so.
Daren, we're here in beautiful Kelowna, which is a nice break from the real world winter. You're up here with the Canadian Association of Agri Retailers. ARA maintains a close relationship with CAAR, I think would be safe to say.
Right.
Why is that connection so important? And B, what do you do to make sure that that connection is maintained?
We work with the Canadians pretty closely on a lot of issues. We also have some relationships with organizations in France and Brazil. And the fundamental principle in all of those is let's try to compare notes, see if there's something that's good that's going on in one of our markets that we can share, or something that's bad that we can stop, work together to kind of harmonize our efforts on. But with the Canadian group in particular, I mean, there's really no difference in our markets. We're so joined across that border. People operate on both sides of the border. So it'd be silly for us to try to operate independently of each other. So we attend each other's meetings. We're on the phone and email a lot, just trying to make sure that we're harmonized to the extent we can be.
And what thing, other than attending each other's conferences, what other pieces happen to kind of keep that line of communication open?
We've created kind of an informal international group that we call FERN, for lack of a better term, Fertilizer Retail Network. Right. But it actually goes beyond fertilizer. It covers crop protection too. And that really is the kind of action phase of this sharing ideas. So one of the things we've done within that group is to try to compare how is ammonium nitrate storage regulated in Canada versus the U.S. versus Europe versus Brazil, and what are the lessons we can learn from each other. We're trying to work on a comparison of how distribution of chemicals compares in those markets now. And it should give each one of us some things that we can take to our respective legislatures or our regulatory bodies and work on to try to smooth out the wrinkles and harmonize those systems internationally.
One of the themes, or the big theme here at the CAAR conference, is the future of agri-retailing, and looking into that, if we only had a little crystal ball to look into. Daren, what do you see as some of the key features as we look into the future for the ARA and for retailing in the U.S.?
We just went through a strategic planning process last fall that identified some of those drivers. And in our case, this is probably much more an American issue than it is a Canadian one. We have a Congress that right now is fighting with each other and not able to pass a whole lot of things. So the action is all at the regulatory agencies. And so our emphasis is going to be focused in that area. But we see bigger drivers, growers getting bigger, having different needs and expectations from their retailers. The demographics of those growers are changing. What grandpa and dad wanted on the farm may not be the same thing as what the new generation coming in wants. A lot of pressure from commodity prices and competition that's forcing consolidation throughout the sector. So there's a lot of drivers and a lot of things for us to stay on top of. And I think those things are going to be common in both sides of the border. Yeah,
and I think the associations play, a big role in helping to focus that effort.
Right. You saw CAAR talk a little bit yesterday about offering member services about employee retention and training and some of those key critical issues. Those are the same things we hear from our members. And so we're working to offer member services to our folks to help them deal with those same kinds of challenges.
Right. CAAR is a huge advocate for getting its members to stand up and talk about agriculture in Canada and share, whether it's in social media or one-on-one with family and friends, and just get that message out more. I think in the past, perhaps, agriculture has not done a great job, can we safely say that, in sharing what we're all about, why we do what we do and how we do what we do. CAAR is advocating for that, and I assume that ARA is going down that exact same path of encouraging that to happen. What kind of things do you folks do to try and encourage that process and facilitate perhaps that process?
That's one of the most important things we're going to be doing in the next several years and on into the future. One of the things we do is every February we do a board meeting in Washington. And we set aside an entire day to do hill visits to various congressional offices. Occasionally we'll make a regulatory agency visit. And we'll split people up into teams and have a coordinated message. Here are the talking points for the visits, et cetera. And so this, about 2 weeks ago, early February, we did ours, and we covered 80 different congressional offices in one day. With the split up of the group.
That's a big day.
It's a huge day. But each group had maybe anywhere between 5 and 8 appointments during the day, so it's manageable. Right? But if you combine the efforts of the entire board of directors and do that in a focused, consistent way, you can have a pretty good impact with one day worth of visits.
And then how do you keep that spin-off alive? So you had that great day, which that's an amazing effort for all concerned. How do we? What kind of things do you do to continue that down the path, so that when they're quote unquote on their own, they're still going down that path?
We asked each team to give us a debrief afterwards if there were any follow-up issues. And so if a certain senator or representative said, hey, I need some more information about the rail bill you guys are talking about,
right.
One of our staff is going to go back into that office or as part of a coalition and brief them on what that bill's all about. So that's the short-term follow-up. Longer term, we encourage members to be active in their districts. We've even supported some as they do fundraisers for members out in the district, encourage them to do tours of their operation so that the member has firsthand experience of what that facility is all about, what they do, and how important it is. And there have been several good examples of activities like that our members have been able to do on their own.
Right. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but your members are chomping at the bit to get more down that path.
When we ask people why they join ARA, they give us two answers. The most important one is advocacy, and the second one is networking. Those are the top two, and advocacy is number one consistently every time we ask the question. So they understand that that's why we're in Washington. That's why we have a third of our staff dedicated to that purpose, and they jump in when there's a time to participate.
You talked about members. We know that that's the focus and the thrust for both CAAR and ARA. What other elements of the engagement process have ARA identified to engaging your members into seeing that the whole is as important or more important than the individual parts, which is no small task, but I know ARA has been successful in accomplishing that. Can you talk a little bit about some of the strategy behind that?
There's several things that we do there. One is good communications. So, and we're obviously always working to improve how we do newsletters, how we do member alerts, those kind of things, so that those publications are valuable. They're something the members pick up and look through. They can access more information if they want to. So it's in bite-sized chunks if that's what they need, but there's more behind it if they want it. Probably one of the most effective things we've done, though, is we've expanded our committees and work groups beyond board members. When I first came to ARA, you had to be on the board to be on any one of our committees. And so now we have a series of task forces under our public policy umbrella for transportation, for fertilizer security, for chemical security, a number of different issues. And we're able to tap into our member companies and say, if you've got a transportation expert that knows these trucking regulations inside and out, please put them on our transportation work group. So that helps us get the best information possible for our policy, but it helps those members also stay in the loop on what's going on in DC. So it's been a win-win for everybody. Plus, from the association's point of view, it gives us more touch points within that company, so that if the one person we know there is promoted or moves to another job, there are other people there that we know.
Exactly. We learn in Canada, we learn a lot of great information from our American friends. Can you think of one place where ARA has learned something from your efforts in attending and connecting with CAAR that has maybe helped the organization over the last number of years?
Probably the biggest one is when we started looking at an ammonia fertilizer code of practice. We did not have one in the United States as recently as a couple of years ago. And so the first place we looked was Canada, because you already had one in place on ammonia, you had one in development on ammonium nitrate, and we pulled a lot of lessons from that document as we went to put together the program that eventually became Responsible Ag. We needed to do a few things differently in our market just because of cultural and legal differences, but we drew a lot of lessons from what Canada had already done in that sphere, and it saved us some time.
Nice. Well, I know that CAAR appreciates the relationship with ARA, and I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and have a chat with me today.
Thanks.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.